This woman chose to become a murderer and go to prison in order to save the child in her womb. On the day she entered prison, her ex-boyfriend, who had betrayed her, was holding a wedding with a wealthy family's daughter. A few months later, the two women gave birth at the same time. However, one was in heaven, while the other was in hell on earth. Ruun was overjoyed as she watched her daughter safely delivered. She hadn't spoken in months, but finally spoke up and named her daughter Soyeon. Her cellmate on one side was surprised to discover that Ruun was not mute. However, fate did not favor the newborn child, because the prison environment was harsh and there was no sunlight. Soyeon contracted acute pneumonia and had to be sent out for treatment, but Ruun no longer had any living relatives, so there was no one to raise the child. She could only think of the child's father, Tae-min. Ruun called him with a last glimmer of hope. Unexpectedly, this call made the adoptive mother discover that someone was shouting Tae-min's husband on the phone. Ruun completely lost hope in him at that moment. Then her adoptive mother asked someone to find out the location of the phone call. Soon she learned that Ruun was hiding in prison, and Ruun's child, because there was no one to raise him, had to be sent to an orphanage. However, just at this moment, her adoptive mother appeared on the scene. Ruun immediately realized that something was wrong, but no matter how hard she struggled to take back her child, there was nothing she could do. She could only watch her child being taken away by her adoptive mother with a broken heart. Soon after, Ruun heard the news she didn't want to hear. Her daughter had tragically passed away. Ruun couldn't accept this painful blow for a while. She couldn't believe Soyeon was dead. After Ruun's repeated requests, the prison guard agreed to let her go see Soyeon's grave. Seeing the truth with her own eyes, she wept uncontrollably. She struggled to remove the buried soil with her bare hands to find Soyeon's urn. At this point Ruun completely broke down, and, overcome with grief, she was filled with rage and made up her mind that she would start taking revenge on those who had hurt her. What Ruun didn't know was that Jiwon was actually her biological mother. One day, the prison bully swallowed a piece of rice cake that he had been saving for more than 10 years, but when he was about to swallow it, it got stuck in his throat. Just as he was out of breath, Ruun promptly applied the Heimlich maneuver to save her life. However, Ruun never would have guessed that the older sister she had saved was a wealthy lady with a powerful background. It was also because of this older sister that Ruun's life would be changed forever. Sinna found Ruun the day before she was released from prison. She promised Ruun that she would help Ruun fulfill a wish after she got out. As long as it didn't hurt anyone, she would do anything for Ruun. But what Ruun really wants to do is to take revenge on her adoptive mother. Sinna looks at Ruun, who is a little disappointed, and understands what she is thinking, seeing Ruun's current discouraged and dispirited appearance. She tells Ruun that sitting around all day complaining and not helping her take revenge is like trying to take down a powerful force with a single stone. You have to stake your life and cultivate your own strength to deal with your enemy. You have to make your enemy cry and kneel before you and beg for forgiveness. In the days that followed, Ruun began to study law day and night. Time passed in the blink of an eye, and a few years had gone by. Ruun was still immersed in her studies. Her fellow inmates were impressed by her unwavering determination. Ruun's efforts were not in vain. Opportunity always favors the prepared mind. On this day, after being released from prison, Sinna's daughter, in order to keep the promise she made to Ruun to help her with one thing, she will let Ruun become her daughter Hygiene. In this way Ruun will be able to achieve her revenge on her foster mother. Ruun, who has returned to her cell, cuts off her black hair, which means she will let go of her old self and begin her official revenge. Because Ruun has behaved well in prison, and thus won 2 days to visit her family, she came to the grave of her daughter, who was killed by her adoptive mother, and said goodbye reluctantly. At this time, her cellmates discovered Ruun's suicide note, which she had deliberately left behind. While cleaning, they immediately reported Ruun's death to the prison leadership. Soon after, the news of Ruun's death was quickly reported on major television stations. The police deployed all their police forces but could not find the body. Thus, everyone believed that Ruun was dead. Ruun was very grateful to the Sinna couple for helping her become their daughter. But if the fact that she faked her death was revealed, she said she would never burden the couple. However, Sinna told her, once you saved my life, now I will give you the identity of my daughter who has just died. Although this is repayment to you, it is also the arrangement of fate. Subsequently, Ruun officially took the judicial examination as Hygiene. She stood in front of the gate of the judicial court and secretly vowed, I will make my adoptive mother, who caused me to lose everything, kneel before me. When everyone thought Ruun was really dead, she was already formulating her next plan of revenge. Ruun looked at the family tree of the Chable family on the wall. Her first step was to take back everything Jiwon held most dear. Then she would make her boyfriend, who had betrayed her, divorce the Chable Jaemin. Finally, she would marry the real heir to the Chable group, Taejun, and take the entire Chable group for herself. I have to say that women are really terrifying when they are ruthless. Soon after, Jiwon received a mysterious delivery. When she opened it, she was shocked. It was a painting that her adopted daughter, who she had killed, had painted before she died. She clearly remembered that the painting had been torn to pieces by her daughter Jaemin. Jiwon never imagined that the dead woman's belongings would suddenly appear in her home. What's more, They didn't know that Ruon wasn't dead. In fact, she was right outside the mansion. This is the first blow that Ruon has officially used as hygiene to take revenge. At this time, the mother and daughter felt very scared. In Ji-won and Ji-min's memories, Ruon has been dead for 3 years. Now why would this painting appear? Ji-won couldn't think of a reason for a moment. She could only comfort her frightened daughter and tell her not to worry. This could be a prank done on purpose by someone. She also emphasized that Ji-min should not tell Tae-min about this to avoid making a big deal out of it, because Ruon's body was not found. Ji-won guessed that Ruon might not be dead, so she immediately asked her lawyer to investigate the fingerprints on the painting. On the other hand, Ruon deliberately created an encounter with Chaebol heir Tae-jun. She deliberately drove in front of Tae-jun's car and braked sharply. Then Ruon got out of the car to apologize and handed Tae-jun, who was in the car, a business card with her lawyer's information on it, telling him to feel free to contact her if he had any problems. Looking at the business card that said Senior Lawyer Hygiene from the law firm, Tae-jun at the time didn't take it seriously. However, Ruon, who had returned to the car, revealed an evil smile. She knew that Tae-jun would soon fall into her trap. Then Ruon drove and deliberately parked next to Tae-min. Tae-min looked incredulously at the woman who appeared in front of him. He recognized at a glance that this was the dead Ruon. At this time, Ruon did not care and drove away. Tae-min told the driver to hurry up and catch up. Ruon saw Tae-min catching up in the rearview mirror and smiled again. She knew that Tae-min had also entered her plan. Her goal had been achieved. Ruon made a sharp turn and disappeared from Tae-min's sight. Tae-min kept reminding himself that Ruon was dead. The person just now must have been a trick of the eye. At this time, Ruon was watching Tae-min from afar and remembered the oath Tae-min had sworn to her. Thinking of this, Ruon's heart suddenly wavered a little. Ji-won ordered the results of the oil painting sent for testing. However, apart from her and Ji-min's fingerprints, no one else's were found on the painting. This caused her to have a huge doubt. How could an oil painting be delivered without going through anyone else's hands? Ji-won then picked up the painting again to examine it, and saw that it actually had a message written on it. The tide will come one day. This made her instantly realize that Ruon might not be dead, and that the painting was Ruon's declaration of war against her. Just to be sure, Ji-won found the prison guard who had taught Ruon, and asked if she had found Ruon's body after she jumped into the sea. The guard told her that Ruon's body was found 3 months later, but because the body was badly decomposed, and could only be identified by the clothes she was wearing. Hearing this, Ji-won's heart was finally set at ease, and she was certain that Ruon was indeed dead, and the painting must have been a deliberate mix-up. Ruon had transformed into a cold-blooded avenger to take revenge on her ex-boyfriend. Tae-min was stunned to see his ex-girlfriend, who had been dead for 3 years, appear before him. To confirm whether it was indeed his dead ex-girlfriend, Tae-min rudely pulled Ruon out and pulled Ruon's clothes open to reveal her shoulder, because he clearly remembered a burn mark on his ex-girlfriend's shoulder. But the result was unexpected. Ruon's shoulder did not have a scar. Ruon angrily told Tae-min that she was not his ex-girlfriend, and warned him that if he was so unreasonable, she would call the police. But Tae-min was unmoved, and still firmly believed that she was his ex-girlfriend. Tae-min did not believe that there could be 2 people in the world who looked exactly the same. Undeterred, he follows Ruon home to find out for sure. Tae-min is convinced that even if Ruon doesn't have the scar, he will still find a way to prove that Hyejin is Ruon. Ruon knows that Tae-min is following her, so she immediately calls her sister and asks her to come home early to greet her. In order to dispel Tae-min's suspicions, the group deliberately put on a show in front of their house for him to see. Although the scene looked very real, Tae-min still refused to leave. Ruon's husband had to come out and ask him what his intentions were for sneaking around someone's house. Tae-min told them that he had to confirm Hyejin's real identity. Hyejin's friend saw this situation and was about to scare him away by calling the police. Unexpectedly, Tae-min agreed very much to let the police come here, and just use the power of the police to confirm Hyejin's real identity. Ruon panicked at the sound of this. If the police really came to check her identity, she would have to go back to prison. So Ruon quickly came out to stop Tae-min from calling the police. Then she took the initiative to let him come in and check. However, Ruon had already made full preparations. She even prepared photos from her university days in advance. Tae-min then believed that Hyejin was not Ruon and left from here. The reason why Ruon's shoulder did not have a scar was actually repaired in advance just in case, and she also decided to start approaching Tae-min as Hyejin in the future. That day, Tae-min's daughter seriously injured another child at school. The parents of the other child hired Ruon, who is a lawyer, to handle the matter. Ruon rushed to the hospital and met Tae-min again, and Tae-min realized that Ruon was actually a lawyer. After returning home, he could not sleep all night and was still unwilling. He ran out directly in the middle of the night to find Ruon to confirm his identity again. Ruon warned him to be careful. Meeting with the attorney representing the prosecution in private could have a significant negative impact. The next day Ruon found Tae-min's daughter Jiena, who was reluctant to apologize. It was from Jiana that he learned the real reason. It turned out that the other party had called her father a gold digger. Jiana was so angry that she hit her classmate. Their conversation happened to be heard by Taemin. As a man, his pride was greatly hurt, because he had heard many civil servants at the company talking behind his back, saying that he was just a beggar relying on the chaebol heiress. Although Jaemin would give such employees a good scolding every time he saw them, it only made Taemin more embarrassed at the company. That night, he was depressed and sought solace in alcohol, and told Ruon a lot of his innermost feelings, regretting that he had once ruthlessly betrayed the woman he loved. Perhaps what he was experiencing now was heaven's punishment for abandoning her. Ruon suppressed her emotions, and took the opportunity to sing a sad love song on stage, to make Kim Muyul fall for her again when he was at his saddest and most helpless. Ruon will not forget her revenge because of Taemin's momentary remorse. She then sent the drunk Taemin home. As soon as he arrived at the door, Jaemin called Taemin. Ruon deliberately answered the video call so that Jaemin could see her face, and saw the person who had died appear at her doorstep in the middle of the night. Jaemin was so shocked that she almost threw herself into her mother's arms. She hurriedly chased after her to get a better look, but Ruon had already left Taemin behind. That day, Taejun was arrested and taken to the police station for investigation in a case of harassing a woman. Meanwhile, Ruon appeared by Taejun's side as his defense attorney. Ruon directly presented the evidence she had investigated to the woman and exposed her lies. The woman, who wanted to settle the matter quietly, could only honestly admit that she had fabricated the report against Taejun. Taejun, who was hiding in the distance, was impressed to see Ruon easily resolve the matter. Ruon's charm also left a deep impression on his heart. Unbeknownst to him, all of this was a trap designed by Ruon to gain Taejun's favor. The woman who reported Taejun was an extra hired by Sinna. In this way, Ruon's first plan to get close to Taejun was a complete success, but she inadvertently discovered that Taejun was actually a friend of her adoptive father. Ruon realizes that Taejun is not the same as Jiwon and the others, and has a special bond with her father. She is already reluctant to use Taejun to complete her revenge plan. On the other hand, Ruon's plan to break up her ex-boyfriend's marriage with Jaemin is also underway. When Jaemin saw Ruon appear on her video call, and coupled with the fact that a courier recently delivered Ruon's painting for no reason, it made her more convinced that the person she saw was Ruon. Jaemin was instantly terrified. She was afraid Ruon would break up her family, so she secretly installed a surveillance camera in Taemin's car to monitor whether he was having an affair with Ruon in private. A few days later, Jaemin took the memory card from the car while Taemin was asleep, and came to the room to plug it into the computer. She was about to check the contents when Taemin happened to wake up. In order not to let him find out, Jaemin had to go to bed. As a result, when Jaemin woke up the next day, Taemin had already taken the computer to work, and at the company, Taemin finally saw the video that was monitoring him. In the end, he also found the installed monitor in the car, but he chose to swallow this humiliation. Taemin didn't want to lose his hard-won life because of this incident. When he returned home, he pretended to be nothing, and he bought Jaemin her favorite floral water. Jiwon checked the surveillance camera and found that Taemin was alone. At this, Jaemin's heart finally let go. She also realized that she could no longer easily doubt Taemin in the future. However, how could Ruon let the couple continue to live happily? That day, she went to Taemin's office without notifying him in advance. Although Taemin was outwardly a little angry with Ruon's actions, he felt an inexplicable joy in his heart. Ruon saw it all in her eyes, leaving behind a jazz CD and leaving. At that moment, Taemin received a text message from Jaemin saying that she was coming over right away. In a panic, he immediately ran out and grabbed Ruon, who was about to leave. Then he dragged her to the side and hid. Taemin didn't want Ruon to meet Jaemin, so as to avoid an inexplicable misunderstanding. However, Jaemin, who was passing by, seemed to sense something in the air. She immediately stopped in her tracks and looked back. Ruon looked at Jaemin with defiance in her eyes, and then gave Taemin a kiss right on the spot. Jaemin was so shocked by this scene that she fainted on the spot. When she woke up from her nightmare, she told her mother with great fear that she had seen Ruon, who was already dead, and that she had also had close contact with Taemin. Taemin hurriedly denied everything, saying that it hadn't happened and denying everything Jaemin had just seen. Jiwon also believes that Jaemin has recently developed a paranoid delusion about being murdered because of Ruon. Seeing that no one believes Jaemin, he immediately became very angry. This is exactly the result Ruon wanted. That day, Jiwon suddenly received a mysterious phone call. The other party claimed to have witnessed Ruon's adoptive father's car accident at the time. This made her remember the scene when she did not save Ruon's adoptive father in order to save Ruon's bone marrow. The caller directly threatened her that if she didn't pay, she would expose the incident. However, Jiwon didn't want to pay, so she thought of Hyejin, the lawyer who solved Taejun's case before. Although they had never met, she still admired Hyejin's ability to handle trouble. Jiwon then called Ruon like she did before, and asked her to help deal with the extortion. Soon Ruon received the information about the blackmailer, Lao Ba, sent by Jiwon. This was a huge break for Ruon. The more she knew about Jiwon's secrets, the easier it would be to deal with her. However, when she saw that Lao Ba was actually related to the orphanage where her father had stayed, she attached great importance to what exactly Ji-won was being threatened about. Ruon found Lao Ba and learned from him that it was actually about the car accident her father had been in, and Lao Ba told Ruon that Ji-won had been at the scene of the accident. Ruon was very sad and ran out. She guessed that her father's death might not be as simple as it seemed. She remembered that the night of her father's accident, he had asked Ji-won if she had seen her father, but Ji-won had replied that she had never seen him. At this time, Ruon also began to suspect that Ji-won must be hiding the real reason why her father had died. She really wanted to go to Ji-won and ask her clearly, but when she reached her doorstep, she thought about her plan for revenge. She still suppressed the pain in her heart and gave up. So early the next morning, Ruon called Ji-won back to tell her that the matter had been resolved and that she didn't need to be paid. Hearing this, Ji-won was very happy and immediately had a great impression of such a capable lawyer. However, Ruon's hatred for Ji-won grew even more at this time. Ji-won wanted to strengthen her power in the company to counterbalance her husband's power, so she brought Hae-jin over to her side and directly recommended Hae-jin to take a position in the legal department of the company. However, Ruon was overjoyed and was just worried about not finding an opportunity to get close to her. The next day, Ji-won invited Hae-jin to her home as a guest to deepen the effect of her influence. Having come this far, Ruon also had to formally meet with Ji-won, so she arrived early at Ji-won's home. When Ji-won saw Hae-jin, she was instantly shocked and backed away. She ran into the room in a state of disbelief and panic. She covered her chest and desperately tried to calm her panic. Ruon, however, was unimpressed by Ji-won's strong reaction and left after getting the desired effect. When Ji-won came out to find out what was going on, she only saw the taillights of Ruon as she walked away. Back home, Ji-won did not tell Ji-amin what had just happened, and finally believed what Ji-amin had said about meeting Ruon before. Looking at the flower basket sent by Ruon, she was afraid and asked Ji-amin to throw it out quickly. Ji-amin was puzzled by his mother's unusual behavior. Ji-won, who was alone at home, thought about it over and over again, convinced that Hae-jin was Ruon. She suspected that Hae-jin had deliberately approached her from the beginning to take revenge. She hurried to the company and asked Chairman Kim to fire Hae-jin from the legal department. However, at this time, Chairman Kim did not agree with her. If Ruon is expelled now, it will affect the company's image. In order to make Ji-won give up, Chairman Kim had to let her find Hae-jin's evidence of Ruon herself. Just as Ji-won was about to leave, she happened to see Hae-jin with Tae-min. Tae-min saw his emotional mother-in-law and hurriedly explained that she had mistaken someone else. Hearing that her son-in-law was defending Ruon, Ji-won directly slapped him. After leaving, she began to have someone investigate the relationship between the Sin-na couple and Ruon. Ruon, on the other hand, pretended to be concerned and asked Tae-min if his face hurt. Tae-min hid his grievances in his heart and did not show any emotions. He told Ruon, "I can't let your mother-in-law bully you just because you look like my first love. As long as I'm here, I will protect you." Ruon was moved when she heard this and took Tae-min's hand, with a sentimental expression to express her gratitude. Tae-min, who was a little embarrassed, slowly pulled back his hand and said he had a meeting and hurriedly left. Ji-won hurriedly arranged for someone to prepare to do something to Ruon as soon as he returned home. How could the wife of a chaebol tolerate being toyed with by others? In the evening, Ruon and Tae-jun were walking together on the street. However, they didn't know that danger was about to strike. Just as Ruon was answering her phone, a motorcycle was heading straight for her. Fortunately, Tae-jun came to her rescue in time, saving Ruon from harm. As he looked at the beauty beneath him, Tae-jun felt an inexplicable stirring in his heart. He realized that he seemed to have fallen in love with Ruon. Ruon also sensed the unusual emotion in Tae-jun's eyes. She hurriedly pushed him away. At that moment, the masked man from earlier returned and picked up Ruon's hat, which had fallen to the ground. He then ran away. Ruon went home and told the Sin-na couple about the thrilling scene just now. Sin-na was just pulled out of the restaurant and associated it with this. They suddenly realized that Ji-won must want to do a paternity test to confirm Ruon's relationship with Sin-na. This made Ruon very anxious and also blamed herself for being so negligent, causing so much trouble. On the other side, Ji-won sent Ruon and Sin-na's hair to her secretary to do a paternity test. As soon as the result came out, all of Ruon's lies will be exposed. However, the next day, Ji-won received the paternity test report and was greatly disappointed when she saw the result, because it showed that Ruon and Sin-na's parent-child relationship was established, which she found hard to accept for a while. It turned out that Sin-na's husband had been following Ji-won's secretary and caused a collision, which caused the secretary to drop the paternity test report she had just received. So he took the opportunity to switch the fake report he had prepared. But this did not dispel Ji-won's suspicions about Ruon. She went to the company again and insisted that Chairman Kim get rid of Hae-jin. However, the company owns a plot of land in Sin-na's hands, so Chairman Kim could not agree to Ji-won's request. Ji-won, who was unwilling to let go, personally found Sinna and her husband. She wanted to find out about Hygiene. Sinna then pretended to look sad and told her that Hygiene was actually a twin. There is also an older sister, but she accidentally lost the other one when the child was 100 days old. This left Ji-won even more confused and she left. She went home and told Chairman Kim about this. It was then that Chairman Kim revealed that Roon was not Yoonhee's biological daughter. At this point, Ji-won began to suspect that Roon and Hygiene were actually twins. However, what she didn't know was that this was all a lie deliberately fabricated by Sinna. As long as Ji-won believes that Roon and Hygiene are twins, Hygiene no longer needs to worry about her identity being revealed. Roon, on the other hand, is having a headache because Taejun has confessed his love to her. Ever since she learned that Taejun is her father's best friend, Roon has been unable to bear to use Taejun to take revenge for herself. She understands that Taejun is a kind and good man, but she doesn't think she deserves